Welcome back, folks. We have another story out of Massachusetts that we're going to cover for you tonight. Some of you may have been talking about it, may have heard about it. It involves this young woman. Her name is Sandra Birchmore. Let me give you a little bit of the background concerning Sandra Birchmore. At just the age of 23, she was found dead, hanging in her apartment in Canton, Massachusetts in February of 2021. Now, the investigation into what happened to her revealed or was ruled death by suicide. The state medical examiner, after the autopsy, found that it was death by suicide. The same autopsy reported that she had been 3 months pregnant. So you've got a 23-year-old taking her own life while 3 months pregnant. So what's the story behind this woman? Well, there's a lot to it, and it's pretty deep. And we begin by taking a picture, I think you just saw it, of young Sandra Birchmore. Here she is. She enrolled with the Stoughton Police Youth Explorer program when she was just 13 years old, okay? Young girl, teenager, right? Wants to get involved in law enforcement. How exciting is that? And here she is pictured with Officer Robert Devine from the Stoughton Police Department. I think he became the chief. But the chief in this picture is part of the story. He is now one of 3 officers accused of having some level of an inappropriate communications, contact, and grooming with this teenage girl, Sandra Birchmore. Now, these 3 officers from the Stoughton PD, on the left, that's Matthew Farwell, who allegedly began a physical, I wouldn't call it relationship because it cannot be a relationship, it cannot be consensual if you're 15, right? But some sort of physical relationship with Sandra when Sandra was 15. Sandra told her friend, allegedly told her friend, that he was the father of the child that she was carrying when she was found hanging in her apartment. Now, we can go back to them if we want, if we can go back to that picture, because I want to describe who the person is in the middle. The person in the middle is William Farwell. That is a twin brother of Matthew Farwell. He's also alleged to engaged in multiple inappropriate physical encounters with her. Again, these are allegations. No one's been charged with anything. And like everybody else, they're presumed innocent, but these are allegations that have been made. He also allegedly sent her explicit messages and photos to her while he was on duty. So what's the big development in this case? Well, Dr. Michael Baden, you know Dr. Michael Baden. This is him in the O.J. Simpson case years ago. One of the most renowned forensic pathologists has been hired by Sandra's family as they are suing the Stoughton Police Department and the city of Stoughton and those 3 officers. He took a look at the autopsy results, and he found, based upon his review, that Sandra's death was a homicide. Now, I want to read for you a statement from the new and current Chief of Police of the Stoughton Police Department, Donna McNamara. I would be remiss if I did not remark that I have reviewed the findings of the outside doctor, that would be Dr. Baden, retained by Sandra's family. I was profoundly disturbed and troubled by what I read. While I'm not a trained medical examiner and I'm not qualified to draw any direct conclusions, the findings certainly warrant further examination at the highest level. So, more problems with local police, or more alleged problems with local police in Massachusetts, in that same area of Massachusetts, and now looking into exactly how Sandra died. Was this death by suicide or was this homicide? Let me bring in our special guests who are joining us tonight. Creator of the Justice for Sandra Birchmore Facebook page, Melissa Berry, and the page's moderator, Suzanne Cleveland. Thank you both for being here. This is the first time on this program we are covering this story. We've got a lot of viewers watching right now who've been locked into the Karen Reed case and are waiting to hear the results of that as the jury deliberates. So, Melissa, I'll begin with you. Okay. Let's start with Sandra. Tell us about Sandra so folks watching now, myself, everyone else, have a better understanding of who she was and where she was in her life at age 23.
Sandra was a quirky, kind child. She grew up in Stoughton, Massachusetts, and she was excited that she was pregnant and about to have a baby. She would tell anybody that she was so excited to have this child, and that is part of the reason why people didn't believe that she did this to herself. She grew up, she did have a hard life. You know, her mother passed away in 2016 and her grandmother passed away in 2016. And a lot of other family members passed away around that same time. So she did have a tough life, but she was so excited to become a mother. And these men took advantage of her, and it's just heartbreaking to see what was done to her. So,
well, Suzanne, let's talk about that. Some of these allegations, and obviously there's the family is now bringing a civil suit. What is the nature of the allegations against these officers and what they have been accused of doing to Sandra, and I guess beginning as a teenager?
Well, see, Vinny, that's the biggest problem, is that this poor young woman looked up to these officers as role models and caretakers and protectors. And instead, they violated her. And when the story first came about, it was already tragic that this poor girl died. And we know that Sandra didn't die by suicide. But the reality is that if it had happened that way, and then that horrible death is still on the hands of these predators and groomers who exploited her and took advantage of her and essentially stole her adolescence. So it was already a tragic story. And then as the layers unfolded, and as you know from Chief McNamara's statement, they know there's a lot wrong here. And we've known for a while that there's a lot wrong here, and that's what brings us together tonight. Yeah,
and the Karen Reed case obviously has put a spotlight on this area of the state and alleged actions by officers. Now, Melissa, I read the statement from the Stoughton Chief of Police. So what are your thoughts and what is your level of confidence that there's going to be further examination at the highest level, that there will be a thorough investigation here to take a second look at what happened to her when she was 23 and found in her apartment, and what happened to her as a teenager?
Yeah, the FBI is looking into her case. The Attorney General has her case now, and we're hoping that because of these developments now with this pathologist coming out saying that her death was a homicide, that we can put pressure on the medical examiner of Massachusetts to reopen her case and re-examine her case. And we can get justice for Sandra and her baby. She was 3 months pregnant. And that's why we've been working so hard to get Sandra's name out there. This was even before, you know, this all came out. We are just working so hard to try to keep Sandra's memory alive. And with the Karen Reed case, we've been able to piggyback off of that and bring a lot of eyes on Sandra's case. And we're just growing and growing, and we're growing on her justice page and on the Twitter page that I also run too.
And it's not the first time that we've seen this and recently here in Court TV. Last year we covered the Alec Murdaugh case down in South Carolina. And on the heels of that case, everyone started talking about what happened to this young man named Stephen Smith. And that case was reopened. So I see a lot of similarities in what's happening now in Massachusetts. So Suzanne, what, from your perspective and the folks that are supporting your cause, what is justice for Sandra?
Justice for Sandra. It would be holding these officers accountable for doing what they did instead of being protectors for her and caretakers for everybody in the community. They were doing a lot of bad things. Period.
Let me ask you, Suzanne, are we talking about the same?
And then it was sort of covered up.
Are we talking about the same investigators for the death of Sandra that investigated the death of John O'Keefe? Are there any sort of parallels in who we're talking about here? There are a lot of common players in this story. A lot of parallels and a lot of common players, and particularly the DA. The DA in Norfolk County is heavily involved in this case. And a lot of the tech, a lot of the elements that mysteriously have gone unavailable. There's a lot of parallels between this very high profile case that we're all in right now and Sandra's case. And it's sort of a blessing that we have all of this attention drawn right now because a lot of the investigative issues and a lot of the behavior, it's the same across the board. And this gives us an opportunity to really stay on all of these problems. Melissa, let me ask you, what has been the reaction of the police in Stoughton? And these officers, I believe, are all off the force now, right?
Yes, they're all off the force. Matthew Farrell has been totally decertified, and the other two officers are making their way through their hearings. It seems like the chief really wants to try to clean up what's going on, what happened in Stoughton. I still think there's a lot of growth. They have a lot of ways to make up for what had happened to Sandra, but they've been kind to us when we've wanted to do a standout, or if anybody wants to go hold a sign in this town center. They've been kind to us when it comes to that. But there's still a lot that I think needs to be done when it comes to the Sandra Birchmore case, and also looking into the program to make sure there was no other children that were abused.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Melissa Berry, Suzanne Cleveland, Justice for Sandra Birchmore is the movement that you're representing. We appreciate your time tonight and giving us a little insight into what else is happening up there in Massachusetts, and we'll speak again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
When we come back, we're going to bring in our own forensic expert. We'll bring in our former prosecutor from the area to find out, well, what happens next? What could happen here as we continue to take a look at the case of Sandra Birchmore.
One of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession, 48 Hours, on Court TV. Coming up next on Court TV.
We're in the final stretch as the case against Karen Reed nears its end. Plus, Friday, hear from the loved ones left behind with a voice for victims.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
I think it spoke to us because we're locals. So my bestie lives in Canton. I'm a Stoughton resident. The Sandra Birchmore story really spoke to me. I have a child in the middle school, and it was local, and we knew it just didn't sit right.
So there you have one of the supporters of Karen Reed talking about a different case in the same county, Sandra Birchmore. And that's what we're talking about now. 23-year-old woman was found hanging in her apartment in Canton But now Dr. Michael Baden, who is helping out the family of Sandra Birchmore, has now written a letter to the Birchman's lawyer about his findings and taking a second look at the autopsy results. And here's what Dr. Baden says about that alleged suicide. Ms. Birchmore did not die of suicidal hanging. The cause of Ms. Birchmore's death is strangulation, and the manner of death is homicide, Baden wrote. And this is all from the Boston Globe reporting. While the state medical examiner found that Birchmore was pregnant when she died, the office apparently did not send fetal tissue for DNA analysis to determine who the father was. Swabs from Birchmore's body, hair, and fingernail clippings and clothing she was wearing were taken for a sexual assault kit, but Baden wrote in his report that it appears the evidence was not tested. In Baden's letter, he said Birchmore fractured her right hyoid bone, a small U-shaped bone in her neck. Such an injury occurs rarely, if at all, in suicidal hanging and does occur in half of homicidal strangulations of women. Powerful stuff. So let's bring in our guests, our experts, to get a little more perspective on this. Joining us, Massachusetts Attorney Rick Grundy, who prosecuted criminals in Norfolk County for many years. Also joining us, board-certified forensic pathologist, Dr. Priya Banerjee. All right, Dr. Banerjee, I'll begin with you and the findings of Dr. Baden talking about this U-shaped bone in the neck. How significant is it? And from your perspective, is it more indicative of homicidal strangulation or suicidal hanging?
These are all great questions, and that's the sort of clutch point here. I think you have to take it into context that she's extremely vulnerable. She was young and pregnant, and we know that that population, any pregnant woman, but a young pregnant girl, is especially susceptible to violence. So forget about any other backstory, even in isolation. So I want to bring that up. I think there was a huge misstep, in fact, verging on malpractice, if you will, by not testing the fetal sample. So that's the baby tissue for DNA or saving it, because that's always a question in these cases. And I don't think it was known that she was pregnant. And finally, the sort of clutch point, the hyoid bone is a very delicate U-shaped bone that sits under the chin where I am pointing. And I sort of explain it like the wishbone of a turkey. It's very delicate. When you play tug of war with it at Thanksgiving, it breaks. Now, like that, it has to be fixed. So this is like a floating bone. So you have to sort of have pressure from both sides. That can happen in hanging, but again, to me, it's a red flag that needs to be really looked at carefully, because the homicide suspicion is there.
All right, Rick Grundy, what happens now from the justice side of all of this? You have the chief from Stoughton, the new chief, saying further examination at the highest level is warranted here. It seems like there might be some federal action on all of this, but how about Norfolk County? How about the medical examiner? How does this proceed from this point if you have a forensic pathologist from a civil case providing an opinion like this?
Well, you take that opinion to your own medical examiner's office and you present any other evidence, the DA's office, or present that there's other questions out there that warrant looking back into what they're doing. The big question becomes, I don't know what the interment was of this young woman. I've had cases where, one case in particular was a 15-year-old girl who was put in the ground as a natural death. 26 years later, we did we brought her in and did a re-autopsy, and we were able to, there was enough remains there in the condition to determine that she was in fact strangled. So we got to determine what we have to look at, and whether those nail clippings, etc., are still available. Murder case, there is no statute of limitations, so it can get up and running at any point in time.
Let me ask you, Dr. Priya Banerjee, this is 2021 when this happened. Any value in exhuming the body? And could you, through that process, and do another autopsy? Is there any chance that you could somehow determine who the father was?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I wanted to bring up something about the hyoid bone. I just wanted to say that it usually is in multiple pieces and doesn't fuse. It has cartilage in it in younger people. So again, it's going to take a lot to fracture it. That needs very careful analysis. And I don't know if there's any retained samples. So usually with an autopsy, there's small nickel or dime sized pieces of tissue that we keep in case there's a question. I don't know what the retention time is for the office, you know, whether that sort of small sample has the fetal tissue that can be sampled. Maybe they did microscopic examination that would have access to tissue, or worst case scenario, to exhume her. I think this is such a serious case. It's at least worth effort, you know, of exhuming her if it goes to that, if those first two scenarios aren't possible.
All right, we have about 20 seconds left here, Rick. The final word, you know the politics up there, you know the way law enforcement works. What are the chances, you think, of something happening here?
You know what? They're answerable to the people whether they want to be or not, because they do have to still get elected. So the people can move this along. From what I'm hearing and what I know about this case, I hope they get behind it. I hope everybody gets behind them, because this is one that absolutely should be looked at further. I could give you the Real Housewives background with respect to all the politics, both the prosecutor, the district attorney before the current one, and his brother being a Stoughton police officer during this period of time,
Wow.
not implicated in any matter.
Gotcha. All right.
And then
We're out of time again, Rick.
Is the present DA.
We're always out of time, but thanks so much. Rick Grundy, Dr. Priya Banerjee, appreciate it so much, your expertise and analysis. All right, before we go, please take a look at the screens. Folks, we have a missing child. This is Amoni Michelle Javoana Bro. Amoni's missing out of Dayton, Ohio, only 15 years old. If you see her, pick up the phone, make the call, 1-800-THE-LOST, 911, or you can call the Dayton Police Department in Ohio. Let's see if we can get Amoni to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. And please don't forget to hug the kids.